Welcome to Elon Beyond the Bricks, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of Elon University to explore the stories, ideas, and innovations shaping our community. Thanks for joining.
Hello and welcome to Elon Beyond the Bricks. I'm Connie Book, Elon University's president, and I'm really excited today to be with 2016 Elon grad Gary Grumbach. Gary currently serves as the legal affairs reporter for NBC News. So when you turn on NBC and there's something that's happened at the Supreme Court, it's a very good chance that Gary is going to be helping us understand these major judiciary decisions that are unfolding. He's regularly on NBC News or MSNBC News. And his path to the national stage started right here on Elon's campus, where he served as the news director for Elon Local News. I know, Gary, I've watched you go from like the campaign trail where you were doing next gen reporting, which I really appreciated that from working with college students. It was really great to hear you bring perspective from young people into that, and now to the courthouse. So, and what I love about the work that Gary's doing is his commitment to journalism as a public service, and a much needed public service right now, helping us digest and understand is critical for our democracy. So Gary is right there in the middle of it. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I thought I would start, Gary, by asking you to tell me what it's like out there right now as a journalist. You're covering, there is so much activity at the judiciary level as it becomes, we've always known there are three branches of government, but definitely the legal element of governance is taking on new meaning over the last 8 or 12 years.
Absolutely, and especially in the last 7 or 8 months, to be honest. I mean, it is significant. Every single day, there are one or two major court cases, decisions, lawsuits that are filed that are incredibly important to people around the country, not just here in the bubbles, as we call it, of New York or DC or Los Angeles, but people around the country. And we try to make everyone else understand what's happening. I'm not a lawyer, like I say, I just play one on TV. But it's important to be able to explain these very complicated rulings sometimes to people and how it impacts their everyday life.
I actually think that would be a strength, Gary, that you're not a lawyer, that you're listening to these decisions as a person that could potentially be affected by it and helping everyday people understand what's happening through the legal decision making. I think that would be a strength.
100%. And aside from not having to go through 3 years of law school, it's absolutely a strength to be able to whittle it down to 90 seconds or 2 minutes of the information you absolutely need to know without some of the legal jargon, just to get the point across.
Can you tell me about one of the stories that, in higher ed, I'm watching several of the cases come through. We've had higher ed's certainly at the intersection of a lot of legal, but we've also seen major decisions about executive power and Supreme Court rulings earlier in processes before, they're coming in with opinions to help manage downstream process too. So it's been a really fascinating time. Give me an example of what your day looks like in terms of covering these major decisions.
Every day I wake up with a to-do list of things I hope to get done, and then by 10 or 11 o'clock, it is just totally different because of a court decision or because of some lawsuit that is filed. But generally, it is a lot of what do we expect today? What hearings are going on that we can cover? Sometimes they're immigration related, sometimes they're higher ed related. Yesterday, I became a tariff law expert. So it really just depends on the day of what I need to be able to explain to our audiences here. And that does change. But it has been a lot of focus on immigration, has been a lot of focus on the higher education issue. And I do think those are two of the issues that are not just issues now, but they have been issues for decades, right? We've seen the immigration issue be dealt with in different ways over the past several decades. It is being dealt with in a different way now. And because of that, there are so many legal challenges to the way it's being handled. And I think that that's important to point out. And also how the Supreme Court is responding, I think, is also crucial to see, because traditionally, what you see from the Supreme Court is hundreds of pages of written argument, and then an hour or two of oral argument before the entire Supreme Court, and then they come back at you with 100 or 200 pages of an opinion. We're not seeing that process take place anymore. We're seeing it much more fast-paced, where what's happening is the Trump administration here is not getting what they want, so they shoot this right to the Supreme Court and say, this needs to change right now. And so sometimes the Supreme Court grants that, sometimes the Supreme Court does not grant that. But they're doing it without a whole lot of explanation and without a whole lot of briefing on either side. And I think that's detrimental not only to the Supreme Court itself and the legitimacy of the judiciary, but also to the judges that are making the decisions down below at the district court level, right?
Yeah.
They're not getting told, well, this was right, but this was wrong. They're just getting told, this was wrong.
And
I
not
think
having that
important,
perspective, right? Like, so I could see, if without a long opinion, not really understanding the thinking behind, the depth of the thinking behind each of the issues to rely on in downstream judgments. That I can see what you're
exactly, like why is the no, right? There's not always an explanation as to why they did say no to something.
Yeah. You're mentioning something about that I'm hearing a lot, and it doesn't really matter if the person is conservative or liberal. I'm hearing a lot of people talking about speed, the speed in which decisions are being made, or the speed in which rules are changing. And it's causing, you hear this phrase about uncertainty. Especially with the tariffs, a lot of business leaders were saying, I'm uncertain. And I just I was curious what you think of that. I definitely think speed is part of the strategy. It has to be part of the strategy, and it's so different now. But it has to be part of the leadership strategy, I'm thinking.
It 100% is. And, something that was said early on, to quote, I think Mark Zuckerberg originally said this, was move fast and break things, right? But sometimes that works out, and sometimes it does not. And I think we saw that with the downsizing of the federal government earlier this year. Is there were layoffs, there were reductions in forces. Some of them were being done legally and by the book, and some of them were not. And the ones that were not ended up getting, pushed to district courts and then appeals courts and then the Supreme Court. But you're absolutely seeing just the move fast action of let's see how much we can get done in a short period of time, throw things at the wall, see what sticks. And some of it does stick, right? But some of it does not.
Gary, when you're in the middle of your work, I'm curious your Elon experience, because you were a leader in student media on campus, and we've always at Elon been very proud of our student media, our School of Communications, and the preparation that they're providing for journalism and advocating for journalism and the need for journalism right now. Tell me about that student experience and how it laid the groundwork for what you're doing today.
Well, I would not be here right now without Elon Local News, which was the news organization on campus at the time, without Elon University, and without the broadcast journalism professors and curriculum that exists at Elon, right? Absolutely would not be where I am right now. And I think it's the idea of the hands-on learning that was so important to me, and that's what got me interested in coming to Elon and applying early decision in the first place, right? Was I visited a lot of great communication schools around the country. I can name, Ithaca, Syracuse, Northwestern, right? All great schools. Absolutely. But Elon was the one that was saying on freshman year, first day, you can be touching this camera. You can get involved in this. And that's exactly what I did. My first week of freshman year, I was sent down to Charlotte to cover the 2012 Democratic National Convention. And of course, at that time, I was a freshman, so I was carrying around one of the senior reporters' tripods, but I was there, right? And that's what mattered. And it was a great experience to be part of the whole thing. And I went from there and grew in the organization, and also grew with the opportunities that Elon was giving me. I was able to go to Iowa for the 2016 Iowa caucus, and we reported live from Iowa as a student news organization. Like, who does that, right? Elon does that. And I think it was incredible. I was able to do that in New Hampshire, and we did that in South Carolina as well. So got the political experience of coverage in college so that when I graduated and got a job, I was like, oh, I've done this before, right? And they're like, what do you mean you've done this before? Like, no, I did.
Oh,
It
no,
was for a
I've been
student,
there. Yeah.
news organization, but I've done it. Exactly. I've
That's
interviewed Chris
exciting
Christie.
because
Exactly. Right.
when you got that opportunity with NBC to do the coverage as a for the I think they called it New Gen or Millennial. I can't remember exactly
Yeah,
the
campaign
phrasing.
embeds. Yep.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, right. That was totally connected to that presidential coverage that you had an opportunity to cover those primaries at Elon.
Yeah, I had literally done it before. Of course, doing it for NBC was a little bit of a different situation, and it was a much more, hands-on experience in terms of the year and a half that I spent with Senator Bernie Sanders every single day on the campaign trail. But the groundwork was absolutely laid for me at Elon, and the connections that I made at Elon helped me get the job at NBC and helped me get the internship at NBC. And so I think the connections are huge too.
We're thinking a lot about day one at Elon. So that has become an expression that we're using on campus because we do know the power of engaged learning and that if you can do that from day one, how much stronger the outcomes are for students. So I'm curious, what advice, I mean, particularly because of the upheaval with journalism right now, we've seen such dramatic changes with the profession itself. So, what advice would you give to an aspiring journalist here at Elon?
I'd say two things. One, I'd say journalism still matters, right? And perhaps more than ever before.
Yes. Yeah.
We're certainly under more scrutiny, not only by our viewers, which we absolutely should be on a daily basis, but also by our government to make sure that what we're saying is accurate and correct. And we are taking steps to make sure that every single word in every piece of writing and every word that's on TV is accurate and fair to all sides and gets a real context and understanding of the situation. I think that it's important for for student journalists that are going into the industry, have internships, right? Elon University is incredible at helping place you in internships, not only with alumni, but with folks that are just willing to help out students and get that step. Because once you have the foot in the door, the rest is on you, but it's important to help you get that foot in the door. Obviously, student media is crucial, right? Joining Elon News Network, doing the newspaper, doing the radio station, doing the TV station is incredible experience that you don't get everywhere, right? There are students at colleges around the country who wish they could be doing what people are doing at Elon. And I know that because I work with them now. Right? There are people that I explain what I did at Elon. They're like,
Yeah.
what? You got to do what? You went to Iowa? You went to Brazil to cover the internet? Like, what are you talking about? Right? And that was with Jana Anderson's course about imagining the internet.
Yeah,
It was an
very
incredible experience to be able to go to Brazil and have that experience to talk to internet experts about the future of the internet, something that we use every single minute of every single day. So I would just say also, finally, I think it's no longer cool to not know what's happening in the world, right? Always staying up on what's happening, whether or not you want to go into journalism, PR, business, language, whatever it is, know what's going on in the world. That's my advice.
Yeah, that is really good advice because it affects all of us. Yeah, and having that knowledge, students are going to be able to navigate choices after college. And two, the habit of it will make you a better citizen when you go to vote or when you go to serve your city or community in some way. So that is really great advice for all majors here at Elon and all faculty and staff, right? All of us. It's now more important than ever for you to be informed, to make sure something we hold so dear as our democracy is working to the fullest that it can. It has really been great to talk with you, Gary, and two, I just want you to know how important I think the work that you're doing is. I feel the same way about our public school teachers that are out there, teachers just generally in public or charter or private, that the work they're doing to continue to ensure a great opportunity for young people through the K through 12. And I absolutely feel like journalism, public, the school teachers, that these are some of the professions that are most needed and that we're seeing very challenged, particularly from the quality of life, right? The pay and the opportunity it affords for a good quality of life, because we need people in these really critical professions that end up making a better life for all of us. So I just want you to know how proud I am of that choice that you made and the work that you're doing. And it does inspire all of us, Gary, when we see you out there doing that work. And thanks for helping keep us smarter about what's happening in the legal system in this country.
Well, I second everything you said, and thank you, Dr. Book. I appreciate that.
Great. I know our listeners have enjoyed this episode of Beyond the Bricks. Take care, Gary.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Elon Beyond the Bricks. Please subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode, and leave a review to help others discover the conversations that matter. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.